So there are three generations that have grown up that weren't alive when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. And there are so many myths that have built up about her that, and part of the reason I wrote it was because my personal trainer, I broke my hip 2 years ago.
Yes.
So I had to get a personal trainer to the rehab. And he's 25, or was then. And when he found out what I did for a living, he said, well, Margaret Thatcher, I've heard of her, but who was she? What did she do? He didn't even know she'd been Prime Minister. And I was like slightly horrified by this. So this is really aimed at those generations. You can't tell every aspect of her life in a book that size, but it really is an introduction to her. And the first sentence says, if you've read Charles Moore's 3-volume biography of her, please stop here. This book is not for you.
No.
So
it's an
it covers most of the
introduction to her.
things.
And by the way, maybe that revelation by your PT does ask questions about the national curriculum and history teaching. They should do a section, shouldn't they, on our first female Prime Minister, arguably. But what's the challenge then when you're writing somebody's life up? I mean, and what a life she led.
Well, I found out that it's much more difficult to write a short book than a long book because you really do have to be concise. I was told I had 30,000 words. I said, well, that's a pamphlet, not a book. So I stretched it to 45,000. But normally a biography would be 120, 150,000 words. So it really was quite a challenge to condense it all. And what do you leave out? I mean, I wasn't going to do a chapter on Northern Ireland, but as I was writing it, I thought, no, you can't do that.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on Wednesday the 2nd of July, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Good morning, thanks so much for joining us.
Keynesian cuts belong to a different era and a different party.
It is with a heavy, broken heart that I will be voting against this bill today.
This is crazy, man. This is outrageous, man.
Unbelievable kickback. The welfare bill dismantled as it limped through the House of Commons by 35 votes to 260, even with the huge concessions. 49 Labour MPs still voted against it. Does this mean the Prime Minister has lost all authority?
And flag wars. The Chief Executive of Warwickshire County Council is refusing to remove a pride flag on County Hall despite orders from the new Reform leadership to do just that.
We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible?
Donald Trump has threatened to set the Department of Government Efficiency on Elon Musk as the pair seem to lock horns again over the president's budget plans. Staying with Trump.
But we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, OK, if they escape prison.
So, in his immigration crackdown, the US president visits Alcatraz, a prison surrounded by the large reptiles, whereas in Britain, 20,000 small boat migrants have been waved across the channel this year already.
And are we in the middle of a student visa scandal? We're going to find out why a leading think tank warns international study routes are being used as a backdoor for long-term migration to the UK.
Free speech silence. A new disturbing report, shows universities are failing to protect gender-critical tutors from bullying and harassment. Should trans feelings trump free speech?
That flag story is interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's going to be one of the first big tests of these reform councils. What do they win? 10 or 11 councils. They've got a very clear rule. You have the county flag, union flag. That's it. But in Warwick, the chief executive has told the elected councillors he's keeping the gay flag. Keeping the
pride flag.
Thank you. Because Pride is now a month in this country. Why?
I just don't understand why a town hall needs to advertise that it's OK to be gay in 2025. Do we really need that?
No.
And I have a problem with sticking the T on the end of all that as well, as you know. But, let us know your thoughts this morning. gbnews.com/your say. It's a very busy show. First, though, with your 60-second news update, Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 9:30, the top story. The government says it will not raise taxes after a massive climb down on its welfare reform bill. Labour admits it will have financial consequence, though, with last-minute concessions slashing savings. Kemi Badenoch says the bill is a total waste of time. Ofgem has opened an official investigation into the substation fire, which caused a, quote, catastrophic fire outage at Heathrow Airport. Reports found issues were first detected 7 years ago, but not fixed, leading to chaos for over 270,000 passengers. 343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday, bringing the total for the year so far to more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made the journey. Donald Trump says Hamas has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire, but Israel has not confirmed the deal. He warns Hamas will only get worse if they don't make the deal. And smell detectors and AI cameras could be used to catch drug use in prisons and the community. Tech companies are pitching devices that can monitor offenders' behaviour and help improve staff safety. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev until midday. So Keir Starmer's flagship welfare reforms bill limped through the Commons yesterday in its first vote.
It's completely pointless because it now will save absolutely no money whatsoever. And it was the most extraordinary. So the Secretary of State, she says to the Commons, we are carrying on with the tightening of the PIPs.
Yeah, personal
independence plans. 90 minutes later, her deputy says, we're not. Most extraordinary U-turn halfway through the debate because they realised they didn't have the numbers. They were going to lose the bill. And that would be unprecedented. It wouldn't have happened since 1986 to lose a major piece of legislation at that early stage.
It is shambolic. And just to remember, we're edging towards a year of being in government. Remember...
Saturday, first anniversary.
Thank you. Remember when the broadcasting journalist Andrew Marr said this on BBC's Question Time, just basking in what was to come?
And suddenly, for once, for the first time in many of our lives, actually Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability, and that in itself is going to draw money into this country.
Doesn't look like that now, does it?
Sorry, Mr Marr. Didn't work out quite like that, did it?
And we both thought we'd have a look at the Labour manifesto. That, as you know, is what the party was elected on at the general election, page after page. And on the first paragraph, talks about fixing the chaos. And how many times have they mentioned chaos in the manifesto?
Go on.
38 times, fixing the chaos. Well, what was it yesterday? Total, unbridled chaos.
Coming hot off the heels of having to row back on the winter fuel allowance.
Yep.
For pensioners, having alienated and upset the farmers in this country, having seen a fleeing of millionaires, billionaires leaving the country or taking all the kids out of private school, paying the VAT on, all of that. Disruption and chaos.
Record numbers crossing the channel illegally.
Yes.
And don't forget the U-turn on grooming gangs. There
was
going to be a national inquiry. Yeah.
Keep trying to be generous, keep trying to look for good news. I can't see it anywhere.
And I saw some Labour MPs were incredibly emotional yesterday because they simply couldn't believe that they were part of a party that was trying to take money away from disabled people. Look, the welfare bill, welfare needs reforming. That is now dead in the water.
Yeah.
Dead in the water in this Parliament. It cannot happen.
Well, let us talk to 11-time Paralympic gold medalist, a hero, actually, of this country, Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson. Nobody better to talk to, Tanni, about this situation. What did you make of events yesterday?
I think chaotic is quite a good explanation of it. I don't think I've ever had quite so many MPs come in and asking me what should they do, or if I was in their situation. I have to say I'm also never been quite so happy I'm a crossbencher that I can just vote with my conscience. I don't have any whip, which I think is challenging. But when you've got MPs coming out of the debate saying, we're not even sure what changes we're discussing now, I think that is a pretty poor place to be. It does feel that this bill was rushed, and my personal biggest frustration is the way the personal independence payment has been spun. So it's been called an out-of-work benefit, a not-in-work benefit. It's a qualifying benefit. I mean, the welfare system's quite difficult to understand, but I get PIP, and you know, a lot of people in work get it, and the reason we have it is because society is not accessible. It's to kind of buy our rights for not having accessible transport, having challenges with employment, all these different things. And I agree with Andrew. You know, it absolutely needs reform, but the initial savings they were talking about was 5 billion out of a welfare budget of 313 billion. And it's like 0.6% of GDP. So, you know, if 5 billion was in my bank account, that would be a lot of money. But in terms of what it's saving for the country, it's not going to save any money. And every government that does welfare reform doesn't do it brilliantly, and it ends up costing more money. So if we're going to do it, we should just do it properly. And at the moment, they're not doing it properly.
And Tanny, what was, I think, probably one of the most dramatic and emotional parts of yesterday was when Dr. Margaret Thatcher, the disabled Labour MP, spoke so emotionally. She said she was voting against the bill with a broken heart. It's clear that ministers didn't think to talk to people like you, people like Margaret Thatcher, about how withdrawing these PIP benefits would impact on people.
No, and I think it's that lack of understanding of what PIP is for, you know, and it all gets wrapped up in lots of other debates. And, you know, there's some media outlets this morning, you know, blaming disabled people for potential tax rises because the money hasn't been saved. But, you know, there has been a promise of co-production and Sir Stephen Tim's review, which, you know, there's delays. You know, they haven't chucked it out completely. But I think disabled people, you know, have lost trust, and co-production has to be done properly. You know, just be honest and say they're doing it to save money. I absolutely understand that, because the welfare budget is not sustainable in its current format. But on the back of the vote on assisted dying, you know, not quite 2 weeks ago, then disabled people are really worried. Yeah. And, you know, the backlash against disabled people, I think, is really quite worrying as well. Disability hate crime is rising.
Tanny, is part of the problem, though, that we've lost the distinction between truly people who are disabled, they cannot, as you say, function, get on and off the tube, on and off buses. Like, life is a daily struggle for some people, compared to those who might have mild or occasional depression or other mental anxiety issues, and they are now being put in alongside people who are genuinely deserving. And that's what winds people up, who watch others, their neighbours, going out, claiming their benefits, and they feel they don't deserve them. How do we fix that?
Yeah, so Department of Work and Pensions fraud rate is low, but what's happened is expanded. And I think you've got a system which is trying to assess physical impairments with mental health conditions, and the system doesn't particularly work for that. So, you know, I think we need to upskill the assessors, but also the number of people who get turned down on assessment. It goes to mandatory reporting, which there's a cost to. It goes to appeal, which is the cost to. Something like 70% then get the benefit. Yeah. Anyway, so you're almost be cheaper just giving people PIP. I'm not suggesting this in any way, shape or form, but the waste in the system is quite significant. And I think what people are upset about is when you're talking about 1 million young people on PIP because of mental health issues and because of anxiety, PIP is not fixing the problem. We need to, you know, work to get young people not to have mental health and anxiety issues.
Yeah.
And people do need to be working and paying taxes, but just doing a slash and burn, it just puts the money in a different budget. So that's the other. Been around the block a few times on this. We're spending the same money, but it'll just be in a different budget. We've got to do it properly.
Thank you so much for joining us, Baroness Tanny Gray-Thompson there, speaking sense and experience and wisdom, as always.
And clearly wasn't consulted about these changes. We can talk now, because it's been a torrid time. Even Labour loyalists are saying they can't recall such a bad time in the first... And we've only had this government in for a year. First anniversary Friday, Saturday. Let's talk to former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. Paul, you and I are old enough to remember that Tony Blair's government in its first year got into difficulties over benefit cuts. Harriet Harmer was in charge then, and it was difficult, but they weathered it. But I would suggest what we saw yesterday in the Commons was on a completely different scale. I don't recall a Secretary of State, Liz Kendall, saying we will be tightening the criteria for PIP for new claimants, and then 90 minutes later, her deputy saying, actually, we're not. Major U-turn. They were going to lose that legislation if they didn't have that latest U-turn, Paul.
Well, people with long memories like us will remember exactly that scenario. The question you might want to ask is, who was the special advisor at the department working for Harriet Harman at the time? Well, it was Liz Kendall.
Yes,
so she might have learned from that experience. But I think the size of the rebellion in that first year under Tony Blair on a similar issue was actually about the same. So the previous government went through something very similar. I think this time round, though, it's the sort of mainstream moderate Labour MPs who kicked off against this in a ways that's why the bill had to be emasculated. And it did pass, let's not forget, and there are some good things in it, but it wasn't the bill they intended, because mainstream MPs just went, hang on a minute, this policy isn't going to work for some of the reasons that the Baroness was just saying there. So I think, as I would say to my kids, this is a teachable moment for the government. You know, what have we learned? One, listen to the people affected, so that you don't do things, you know, to people without consultation. And B, listen to your MPs, because many of them do have experience. They are broadly loyalists. They want the government to succeed, but they know the voices of their own constituents, and they know that this policy was going to impoverish many people in the country, which is not what we signed up for.
I do wonder, Paul, whether one of the things we need to contemplate and discuss off the back of all of this furor in the last few days is whether it is time to separate physical health from mental health. Because with the very best of intentions, previous governments have put the two together, because Jeremy Hunt. Certainly, suicide amongst men is a problem, the biggest killer of men under the age of 45. Like, there are problems, and we were right to tackle those. But I think putting it on a par with physical disability has allowed the system to, frankly, be abused.
Well, it's a really good point. I mean, the sort of mantra within government is there needs to be, and it's a terrible cliche, so forgive me, but it's called parity of esteem, which is that if you have a broken leg, you should be treated the same as if you've got a broken head. You know, the idea that mental health is as valid within the system as physical health. However, as Danny was saying, you know, the system is not designed currently to take into account different types of mental illness, and that by lumping it all together, people are not being treated the right way.
Yeah.
And just giving people money without treating the symptoms of mental illness is the wrong way around, isn't it? It just sort of perpetuates a problem. So, I mean, maybe that is a debate that we need to have. When I say it's a teachable moment, I think it's across the piece. You know, not only how the government has to behave and listen, how Keir Starmer has to think about his own MPs, about MPs themselves and how they need to engage with government, but also in terms of the design of policy, because the big point here, surely we can all agree on, is that the system is broken. We're spending vast fortunes on just keeping people out of work, many of whom would like to work and could work with the right support. And as a nation, we're going to go down the tubes if we carry on doing this. We're spending more on disability benefits than defence, for heaven's sake, which is just unsustainable.
Yeah, quite right. Labour Special Advisor, former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards there. Thank you, Paul, so much for joining us. Quick break. It's good to see the civil service, though, Andrew, making very good use of their time and our money. They have produced a 150-page dossier on how to use a full stop.
I could tell you a few politicians could do with a full stop.
Some of our producers could learn how to use a full stop as well.
Yeah, and apostrophes.
And apostrophes. Oh, don't get us started on apostrophes. We are going to get stuck into that in just a minute, though. Here's your European weather.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue, many areas seeing temperatures widely in the mid to high 30s, and this could be enough to trigger some thunderstorms across the Alps. But across Portugal, Spain, mostly settled, but still those intense temperatures starting to drop away from Thursday onwards. Some quite heavy showers across parts of Switzerland. These could bring some intense hail and also some frequent lightning. But as we move our way eastwards across the Mediterranean, mostly settled, plenty of sunshine and temperatures widely still in the mid to high 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And Tom, look what I received this morning.
This is so sweet. Oh!
Isn't that cute? From one of our viewers and listeners. A little, I think it's homemade.
Shall I hold it up?
Yeah, you hold it up. And a little tiny matching hat as well, which is very cute. Goes up here. So there you go, a little matching hat.
And
also a lovely little blanket as well. Wow. This is from Judith from Leeds, who wrote me a lovely little letter, and to Patrick as well, wishing us well, saying that she loves watching our shows, and I hope we enjoy this little outfit. So there you go.
It's like your little baby is with us already.
So yes, Judith, I hope you're watching, because thank you very much indeed. It's really sweet of you to send that to me. It took a little while to get to us, but we've got it this morning, so that's so cute.
It's incredible craftsmanship, actually.
I'll make sure to take a little picture when the baby arrives.
Are you sure your baby isn't going to be French?
It's something French around it. It's a good thing I like France, so there you go.
Oui, oui.
That's very cute indeed. I just thought I'd say thank you, because it was a really nice surprise this morning.
Yeah, no, it is actually really, really lovely. And it does, I mean...
To bring a tear to your eye, Tom.
Well, we haven't really...
Feeling very emotional.
I was going to say... We haven't really mentioned, you know, your pregnancy in a little while. And
after the big reveal. After the big reveal.
You're still with us for a few months more before your due date.
I have to depart, yes. Yeah. Don't worry, you've got me for a little longer. We'll see how it goes.
Marvellous
See how it goes. It'll be rolling me in. Before I leave this desk.
It'll be a GB baby.
GB News baby. GB baby.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. $9:50, Britain's Newsroom on GB News. So, it's Holyrood Week in Scotland. The
Happens every year.
King and Queen are carrying out their engagements. How did they get there, Andrew, now that their royal train has been decommissioned?
Well, they only used it once or twice last year. I want to know where the royal train is.
So do I. Cameron Walker, can you at least find out for us? We're desperate to know. Go sleuthing. Where is the train? And how did they get there? And what are they doing?
Do you know, I'll try and find out exactly where that train is, but it's certainly not in Edinburgh, Andrew and Bev, and I can tell you that they did arrive in the Palace of Holyrood House via helicopter, and that same helicopter has just landed and then taken off again in the gardens of Holyrood House, because the King and Queen are leaving Edinburgh this morning to go across the Firth of Forth, which is that big body of water to the north of Edinburgh, to visit the town of Kirkcaldy, because they are commemorating, let's say, the 100th anniversary of their war memorial, and also unveiling what is described as a commemorative cairn, which is basically a symbolic pile of stones here in Scotland, again to do with honouring the war veterans here in Scotland. Lots of other engagements being carried out. The Queen is hosting a reception for community nurses and midwives in the Palace of Holyrood House yesterday. As is tradition, Andrew, as you're saying, it happens every year. There was a garden party, there was an investiture, there was a couple of audiences as well. The King has not met John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, yet. And at the moment, I don't have any information for you as to whether the King plans to do that. I would be incredibly surprised if he didn't, because it is custom for the Sovereign, when he is in Edinburgh for Holyrood Week, to meet with the First Minister of Scotland. So I will let you know if I do hear any more details on that point. But it was a day of firsts yesterday because the King's official bodyguard here in Scotland, known as the Royal Company of Archers, who literally carry bows and arrows, looking like something out of the Middle Ages, but of course it is that British tradition, isn't it? For the first time ever, there were female members of the Royal Company of Archers accompanying the King, and there were 4 of them, and they were there for the investitures, they were there for the garden party and everything else that was going on. So perhaps keeping up with modern times for the King and Queen, but they are carrying out engagements kind of all week, as you would expect. There are a couple of more secret engagements which we're not allowed to tell you about yet, but stick with us on GB News, and of course we'll bring you the very latest. But helicopter, Andrew and Bev, certainly the mode of travel that the King and Queen are favouring this week.
Thank you, Cameron. Stay dry there in the rain. Keeping up with modern traditions.
Society of Archers.
It's security
Robin
guards.
Hood, Robin Hood, riding from the Glen.
Makes you proud to be British.
Doesn't it? Very modern. Do you know the most interesting about Kirkcaldy? Its most famous resident is Gordon Brown.
Is that the most interesting thing about Kirkcaldy?
There's not much else. If you live in Kirkcaldy, I don't wish to be disrespectful, but I did get
I think
up
you just
there
were.
just before he became Prime Minister. I was on the Daily Telegraph then. I spent a couple of days up there. I did a big profile of Gordon Brown. Actually, I found some photographs he'd never seen.
Photographs of him that he'd never seen?
Well, he couldn't remember them. So it's quite interesting. But it's a challenging town, I would say.
If you're in Kirkcaldy this morning, would you like to get in touch and tell us the merits of your wonderful town? We'd love to hear from you. And still to come, flags, wars on town halls. Don't go anywhere.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It could be a cloudier day for some with some showery outbreaks. These could turn heavy, possibly even thundery in many parts, but for many it is going to be feeling a lot cooler than it has done over the last few days. But nevertheless, quite a cloudy start, particularly across eastern and southeastern parts. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, and these showers could be particularly heavy across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England. Could hear the odd rumble of thunder and possibly some heavy showers creeping into the southeast at times too. But for many, it should be a largely dry and bright day. Still warm in the sunshine with highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius, but it's going to feel much fresher, not quite as humid as it has done over the last few days. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, largely dry and bright to the west, that most of the showers creeping into eastern areas where once again 1 or 2 could be heavy, if not quite blustery, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, mostly dry, though we can't rule out some showers, but definitely fewer showers across northeastern England compared to much of the day. And elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be mostly dry and a clear end to the evening, a breeze starting to pick up, which should offset the heat as well. But for many, as we head through the overnight period, it is going to feel much fresher, not quite as muggy and as uncomfortable, and for many it should remain largely dry. That's away from the northwest though. Cloud creeping in here and also some showers by the time we reach the early hours of the morning, but this time lows reaching the high single figures, so definitely not going to feel quite as warm to start on Thursday compared to what we've had over recent days. Now for many on Thursday, largely dry and bright, plenty of blue skies, particularly across the south and southeast, but once again across the northwest, more cloud pushing in here, some quite blustery showers, and once again 1 or 2 of these could turn rather heavy. So feeling a little fresher under cloudier skies, but once again warm and any sunshine, particularly across central parts and across the south. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Disruptions persist on the A75 westbound due to a road incident. Motorists should allow extra time. In Wakefield, all lanes on the M1 southbound are closed due to a collision. The Oxfordshire M40 northbound has 1 lane closed for a load spillage. Near Betty W. Coed, the A470 is closed for maintenance. In Hampshire, a broken down vehicle on the A303 eastbound causes lane closure. And on the trains, Gatwick Express has no service, with disruptions on Avanti West Coast. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 2nd of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Well, the welfare bill has been entirely dismantled.
Dickensian cuts belong to a different era and a different party.
It is with a heavy, broken heart that I will be voting against this bill today.
This is crazy, man. This is outrageous, man.
That's the welfare reform bill limping through the House of Commons yesterday by 330 votes to 260, even those huge concessions made. 49 Labour MPs obviously voted against it. Has the Prime Minister lost all credibility?
Well, the Prime Minister's authority in tatters, as it is clear that at the moment it's backbench MPs calling the shots. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves has to find £5 billion from somewhere.
Flag wars. The Chief Executive of Warwickshire County Councillors flatly refused to remove a pride flag on County Hall despite orders from the new reform team of councillors that now run the very same town hall.
We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible?
Donald Trump threatening to set the Department of Government Efficiency on Elon Musk. The pair lock horns again over the president's budget plans and sticking with Trump.
But we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison.
I think he's joking there.
I think he is, because what he's talking about as part of his crackdown on immigration, he's visited Alligator Alcatraz, a prison surrounded by those huge reptiles, whereas here in Britain, 20,000 small boat migrants, illegal of course, have been waved across the channel this year already, another record.
And we're in the middle of a foreign baby boom. 4 in 10 new babies born in this country last year had at least one parent not from Britain. What does it mean, and will this figure continue to rise?
And is there another scandal over student visas? We'll find out why a leading think tank wants international study routes. Says international study routes are being used as a backdoor for long-term migration to the UK.
And free speech continues to be silenced. A new report is showing that universities are failing to protect tutors from bullying and harassment if they are gender critical. Should trans feelings always trump free speech? I was thinking when we did the alligator Alcatraz, how many people are watching the telly going, maybe we should just set alligators into the channel, that might sort out the boats.
You're certainly not doing it because we're not sorting out the boats.
We don't actually want people to be injured on the way.
But we would like a feasible, logical plan from the government. Because 20,000 already, we are heading for a record this year.
Yeah, we are. And the thing is, that's the kind of thing that Donald Trump says that causes all sorts of people to sort of clutch their pearls and gasp. But you have to remember, a lot of the time, he is slightly joking. He's got his tongue in his cheek a little bit.
Yeah, but he's turned back hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants from the border with Mexico.
95% reduction.
Amazing.
On the border. What can we learn from him? gbnews.com/YourSafe. All your comments first, though. Sam Francis with the headlines.
Very good morning to you. Just after 10 o'clock, the top story this morning. Well, the government's welfare bill has passed by 335 votes to 260, but 49 Labour MPs still voted against it last night. Last-minute concessions mean the savings target has now been slashed from £5 billion to almost zero. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says, quote, Labour's welfare bill is a total waste of time. Well, Shadow Finance Secretary Gareth Davies also claims the climb down has left a huge hole in the Chancellor's spending plans.
Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, now has to find an additional £3 to £7 billion if you look at the winter fuel U-turn, the U-turns last night, and there's a raging debate in the Labour Party at the moment about the two-child cap. And so if you add all that up, it's about £7 billion she's going to have to find. We're clear that this is probably going to come from additional taxation in the autumn, and we're trying to warn the public about that right now.
And Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, admits there will be financial consequences to the changes.
If you're not saving money from this, it has to come from somewhere. All of that will have to be taken into the round, along with all the other government expenditure pressures when we reach a budget later in the year. I'm not going to speculate about that now, but I do acknowledge there's a financial consequence to the decision reached last night.
343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday, bringing the total for the year so far to more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made the illegal journey to the UK. A major fire that shut down Heathrow Airport was caused by a fault first detected 7 years ago, a new report has revealed. Moisture was found in 2018 inside a key component at the North Hyde substation, but maintenance was delayed and then cancelled. When the fault sparked a blaze in March, it led to 270,000 disrupted journeys at nearly 67,000 customers losing power. Ofgem has now launched an investigation into potential licence breaches by the national grid. Heathrow called the outage catastrophic and blamed a failure to maintain critical infrastructure. US President Donald Trump says Hamas has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, but Israel has not yet confirmed that deal. Donald Trump warns Hamas will only get worse if they don't take the deal. Meanwhile, Israel continues military action with evacuations taking place in northern Gaza. Smell detectors and AI cameras could be used to catch drug use in prisons and the community. Tech companies are pitching devices that could monitor offenders' behaviour and help improve staff safety, with Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood calling it a digital prison outside a prison. And just to bring you a quick breaking line before I hand you back to Andrew and Bev, we're hearing from the Reuters news agency that prosecutors here in the UK are considering further charges at the hospital, the Countess of Chester Hospital, that is, where the baby killer Lucy Letby worked during her time there between 2015 and 2016. That, of course, following the arrest and later bail of 3 hospital bosses announced yesterday at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Lucy Letby already convicted and serving life in prison for murdering 7 babies. But as I say, prosecutors considering further charges this morning. We'll bring you the latest on that as more comes to us. Now, though, let's get straight back to Andrew and Bev.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
So we've been talking this morning about this shambolic vision in the Commons yesterday, these benefits being cut, but Starmer, of course, having to row back and retreat on the amendments that he did want to make because of pressure from the backbenchers. Andrew says, I live on a road with many PIP payments. They all have new £50,000 electric cars. If they can afford such expensive cars, the payments are too high. Now, that is probably the vehicle system that they have in order to be able to get cars if you need them. You're still with me, Andrew?
Yeah, no, listen.
And what's it called? The Motability Scheme. That's what I was looking for.
Well, that is responsible for some of the major part of car production and sales in this country is through Motability.
Yeah.
And the whole part of welfare reform, they would look at all these sort of things. Welfare reform is now off the agenda.
Absolutely.
Because the Prime Minister had such a kicking yesterday.
Which is so depressing.
He won't go near it. It's so depressing. Everybody agrees, all political parties agree, it's out of control. The benefit bill is soaring. They're now too scared to do anything about it.
You have to have the backbone to change the culture.
Yeah.
You have to do everything to change the culture, and they haven't got the backbone, and they don't particularly want to change the culture. Sam says PIP isn't fixing the problem of 1 million young people with anxiety because, capital letters, there isn't a problem, says Sam. They need to be told to get on with it, stop thinking the world owes them a living.
And also, if you have a job, that's going to help you with your anxiety and depression because you get into a routine.
Absolutely.
Much better for you.
Edward, morning Edward, says, as a retired bus driver, I've known many people who shouldn't be classed as disabled, including whole families in some streets. Pete says, I feel sad, quote, is not a disability.
Quite.
He says, I use a wheelchair. I use a wheelchair and am blind. That is a disability. Simple. And I think what we discussed earlier with Paul Richards is a conversation we need to have, whether we have to extricate physical and mental health from each other again in order to have a system that works.
Didn't Jeremy Hunt say somewhere only this week or last week it was one of his biggest mistakes as Health Secretary?
Yeah, but the mood at the time was that we did have to take mental health. But also, I think, given that suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, that is a problem. That is something we do have to talk about. We have to, particularly with men and boys, encourage them to be more open about the troubles in their life. But the pendulum did swing way too far in terms of recognising mental illness. It came from America, of course. Let's talk to Catherine Forster, who's with us in the studio, waiting very patiently while we witter on. Morning, Catherine. All right, tell us, yesterday, if people are just tuning in, what happened and why is it potentially so catastrophic for the government?
So last night, the government got their welfare legislation through, so it was nominally a win. But to do that, they basically had to gut pretty much everything out of that bill. So there's a bit that's gone through on universal credit, but the bulk of it and
they're actually raising it, so that's going to cost them money.
Yes. So the bulk of this was around personal independence payments, making it harder to get. It was going to save the Chancellor £5 billion a year. They did a partial U-turn last week. That reduced the savings to £2.5 billion. And then late yesterday afternoon, when it became clear that the government still might lose the vote, they then basically U-turn pretty much on the rest of it. So we're now in a situation that pretty much everybody is upset. The government is upset with the rebels, that they've lost this £5 billion saving. The rebels are unhappy with the way it's been handled. Everybody is cross, everybody is blaming each other. And the Prime Minister, coming in a year ago with a majority of 165, this government should have been able to get anything through. But now the message that Labour rebels have got is if there's enough of you and you don't like something, you can just say no. They're not going to take the whip off you, and there's no consequence. So Pat McFadden was on GB News a little bit earlier. He's very experienced. He was asked by Ellie Costello, has the Prime Minister lost control of the party? He didn't say no. He just said it's very difficult. He was also asked how much has been saved. Nothing has been saved. Nothing has been saved. The IFS says that if anything, what's now been announced, this review with Stephen Timms bringing in disability groups, might have a net cost of about 100 million. So they've done all this for nothing.
Quite extraordinary. And this Timms review, when they announced it, it was extraordinary. The review was going to be published after they tightened the rules on person PIPs for new claimants. Well, why have a review after you've changed something? And then, of course, they've got rid... The minister, Timms, who's doing the review, had to humiliatingly stand up in the Commons yesterday, 90 minutes after his Secretary of State said, we're still going to tighten the criteria. I'd say, no, we're not. I couldn't believe my ears.
A dog's breakfast, shambles, farce. Those are just some of the descriptions from Labour. From Labour MPs, one of whom said, oh, I just popped out to get a banana, and when I came back in. Others really, by the time it came to a vote, didn't really understand what was left of the bill and what they were actually voting for. It really reminds me of the chaos of the Brexit years under Boris Johnson, under Liz Truss. This is something that this government promised would not be happening. Stability and also country before party. We saw the Prime Minister yesterday. They've absolutely had to put party before country because they've had no choice. But Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, on TV this morning has said people might see all this as chaos, but we've got to a better place now. Really? Really, have they? So, she also was asked about if she wanted to be PM.
And also, let's just be clear, because on a morning after a vote like that, Angela Rayner could have done all sorts of media. We'd have loved to have you here, and any time, doors open, kettles on. Do come and have a chat. She chose to do Lorraine this morning. A little soft soap, sit there in the red dress and have a little chat on the comfy chairs. Was she held to account in any way by Lorraine?
Well, I didn't see the whole interview, but what I have gleaned is Lorraine said to her, you know, look at the Prime Minister, it's exhausting, it's taking his toll, does he even want to do it? Would you want it? And Angela Rayner, who, of course, is one of the prime people who might like to take over from the PM if and when, said, no, you know, that job will age you by 10 years in a year or so. No, absolutely would not want it.
She made a bit of a joke about it, about her looks.
A bit of a joke, but I don't think there's many people that seriously think that Angela Rayner would not want the job.
She wants that.
Or indeed West Street.
And what's, I think, really interesting, Catherine, in the last week or so, it is now commonplace to hear Labour MPs talking about life after Starmer. Who'd have thought that? We haven't even got to the first anniversary of his historic landslide victory, and they're talking about life after Starmer. And people talking about how he may not lead Labour into the next election, that there could be the men in grey suits that the Tories are very good at, say, you can't do it, mate, out.
This is what we are hearing. It is being commonly talked about. I asked the Prime Minister this a week ago, and he said he was very confident, but that was at a point where he was in The Hague. They knew this was coming, but they clearly didn't know how bad it was going to be. Look, I think it has been badly handled from Number 10. There's a disconnect between Number 10 and these hundreds of Labour MPs, some of whom had never even met the Prime Minister. I think the attitude was that basically they would do as they were told, but they clearly are not going to do as they're told, and now they've got the bit between their teeth. I suspect they'll continue with that, and he is leading a Labour Party. For all the messaging from him and Rachel Reeves, tough choices, ironclad fiscal discipline, there's plenty of Labour MPs who just think we want this money for disabled people, we want this money for that. They're not concerned about where that money is going to be coming from.
It's going to be coming from higher taxes. Can see no other way around it, Catherine. And of course, they promised in their manifesto there'd be no tax rises. Crippling already, because national insurance went up for employers, mostly passed on to employees.
It probably is, unless Rachel Reeves changes these very tight fiscal straitjacket, really, that she's put herself into. And again, the Prime Minister said to me last week in The Hague, I can reassure your viewers, we will stick to our manifesto, promise no tax rises on working people. But of course, plenty of people will say that's already been broken with some of the tax rises they've brought in.
OK, thank you so much, Catherine. Fascinating stuff. Now, temperatures are soaring, but we've got the coolest prize on telly, £54,321 Great British Giveaway. Here's the details.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance chance to win £54,321 cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Get entering. Now, former Health Secretary Matt Hancock is speaking at the COVID inquiry. He was responsible for adult care services in England during the pandemic. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Not close enough, in my opinion.
I remember he said he was going to put a protective arm ring around care homes. Remember that? How many people have died in our care homes?
There he is, talking of ageing.
And he's grown a beard. Doesn't suit you. Doesn't
look well, does he?
Hancock.
Hopefully he wakes up in the middle of the night and thinks what he did to the country. Up next.
Donald Trump visits alligator Alcatraz in Florida, where 3,000 migrants are being held. Probably more effective than smashing the gangs. You're with Britain's Newsroom.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, how about meeting the new ABBA? It's what a lot of people are calling Dad Harmony. It's a new Swedish a cappella group that are the biggest TikTok sensation you can imagine. They are everywhere at the moment, and they join us now. Really good to see you all. With us, we have this morning Thomas, Michael, Sebastian, Peter and Adam. Not necessarily in that order, but I know. There we go. Gents, it's really good to see you. I've got to ask, first and foremost, how did you get started? How do you even get together and think, this is something we can do?
Yeah, it's actually all of a coincidence, to be honest. It was, we were friends, but we were Peter had a bachelor party. And like 10 p.m. or something, we started to sing. And I recorded that song. And for some reason, I put it out on my TikTok account with like 7 followers or something. And then it blew up and got like, the first video got 22 million views, I think.
Beautiful.
Just
really
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Joining us in the studio, Mike Parry and Stephen Pound. Gentlemen.
Well, Steve, I think we just have to say, Stephen, I thought you might be wearing a black armband.
I'm surprised he turned up.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you turned up this morning, Stephen. Very brave you, considering the shambles of the government that you once represented. You must feel ashamed.
Can I say, it's pretty low to kick a man when he's down.
No, I don't think so. I quite enjoy it.
No, I appreciate you never see a belt without wanting to hit below it, but in all honesty, Parry, you know, have a little sympathy.
No sympathy at all.
I have sympathy for the very many disabled people who thought they were going to lose their person-independent payments and now won't.
And Andrew, do you honestly think that the present system of welfare benefits is sustainable?
I think the welfare system needs major reform.
Thank you.
Now,
absolutely
dead in the water because of your gutless, useless Prime Minister.
No. It has to be done. It has to be reformed.
Stephen, it's dead. It won't be done. Parliament.
Last week you came out with a figure: it's 1,000 people a day. 1,000
people a day every day.
We cannot possibly sustain
that.
This.
That is a town the size of Leicester every year are going on.
Exactly. And do you know a lot of these interviews now for PIP are actually being done over the phone.
Most
by
of them.
Zoom.
Hang on.
Hang on. People can game the system.
Hang on. Sometimes, you said Zoom, at least you can see a person's face. Sometimes it's on the phone.
That's right.
But what about the real scandal? People at the Department of Work and Pensions are actually getting a bonus for signing somebody up onto the welfare system of £85. That is outrageous. Because it speeds up the system. Another tick, another tick, another tick. It's absolutely outrageous. 1 in 5 people of working age in this country are supported by the welfare system in this country. That is an outrage.
But it's like giving the French police a bonus for not stopping the boats. But look, the reality.
People's lives are ruined when they're on welfare, but there's no effort to try and get them back into work, which is the best thing for their mental health.
Mike, if I can just wipe the blood off my face and actually just draw breath for just a second. Look, this is a Pyrrhic victory. Some of the members of the Labour Party who voted against the government last night have signed their own death warrants. They have actually condemned the Labour Party in many ways. And sometimes people do not like parties that are divided. However, the main thing is, yesterday was a shambles. I agree. I entirely agree. I'm not going to defend the indefensible. Not this time, anyway. But look, the reality is we have to reform. We're not helping people.
We have a huge reform the system.
We have a huge
productivity. You will not reform the system. You're fooling yourself.
We do not produce in this country. So how do we get people into work? How do we get people producing? How do we get people growing wealth? We've got to do that. The present system isn't working. We have to reform it. And unfortunately, some of the shroud waving that's going on at the moment is so terrifying that any hint of reform is actually being screamed at.
It's a doom loop because you've just touched on it. If Rachel Reeves is putting people out of work through her mad tax policies, more people are going onto the welfare system, and there's less money from taxes to pay those people.
You're implying that you can walk out of one job and then immediately sign on the dole. You
could if there were jobs around.
Which I'm sorry. In that case, if we're talking about out of work benefits or we're talking about sickness benefits, these are different issues.
Well, they're not because they're not working.
Well, no, there's a link. Obviously, there's a causal link.
They're not productive.
Well, I appreciate they're not in education, training, or work. But the reality is that there are so many people suffering, particularly young people, who are suffering from mental health problems.
Are they real? Are these illnesses real, or are they imagined? Are they in your head? Are they a fantasy?
If they are
that's what
real,
I ask. Is it a fantasy?
Mike, if they are real, this is the biggest change in mental health in the history of this country.
So you're saying it's not real?
It can't. Statistically, how can it be?
Well, there you go.
We all agree on that.
Well, we were saying, I think
let's not agree.
I think we need to start a campaign now about separating physical health from mental health. In the way that they've been converged over the last 20, 30 years, we need to get some common sense back into this.
I call it the backache complaint because when I was a kid, people got off work, doctor me back, because you can't see the spinal cord like you can't see inside somebody's head. So it's easy to try and fool a compassionate doctor into, I'm feeling a bit awkward today.
Well, I can still remember somebody coming to my surgery saying that they suffered from chronic agoraphobia and they couldn't leave the house. I said, well, call me old-fashioned, but you're actually in my surgery.
Funny that.
Said, yes, he said, but you won't tell them, will you?
Steve,
but a lot of people would have said no.
Now, let me ask a serious question. Are you 100% confident Keir Starmer will lead this Labour Party into the next general election?
100%. Well, the Labour Party doesn't throw its leaders out the window.
But I can't believe...
So maybe they should.
I can't
That's
believe...
a different question.
I don't think he's enjoying this job. I think he must be coming increasingly where he can't
I agree.
do it.
I agree. Don't forget, he came very late to politics. He's in his 60s now. He came very, very late to it. I mean, even when Ramsay MacDonald was the Prime Minister in a Tory government, he was still in the Labour Party. We're not the Tories. We don't throw our leaders out the window.
Stephen, isn't it also obvious that he's very ill-prepared for this job? There's a terrific examination piece in one of the papers this morning.
Telegraph.
The Telegraph, saying that he actually lost his prime ministerial standing at Southport, because when he went there and people started booing him, he stayed 40 seconds he stayed, mumbled a few words, went off as people were booing. Just think what Blair would have done in that situation. Just think what Boris Johnson would have done in that situation. But he completely blew it, and ever since has completely failed to communicate either with the company, with the country who vote for him, or with his backbenchers.
That's exactly what George Osborne got booed at the Paralympics. Exactly the same. And he walked away as quickly as he could and won the next election with David Cameron. So, it's not irretrievable. It's unlikely.
I think it is.
Fellas, can we talk about this £500,000 on a full stop? I sort of love this story because it highlights the absolute waste and insanity of people in local government. But actually, it's the government, isn't it?
Central government.
Central government. So civil servants have published a 150-page dossier on how to use a full stop in the government's new £500,000 website
I thought all you needed to know was you put a full stop at the end of a sentence.
Do you ever think you're in the wrong job? Because imagine having one of these jobs, and you'd have to wear red braces and ridiculous glasses and everything, but you're working in some advertising agency, and you're filling your boots with... I thought, let's spend the next 6 months talking about the location of a full stop.
I would literally have a nervous breakdown if I had to, because I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut in those meetings.
No.
God, I'd love to be a fly. I would love to be a fly on the wall.
I totally agree. But the problem is, I've read this story twice. It's on page 10 of the Telegraph this morning. I still can't understand it. I can't understand.
I thought it was on page 1.0.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no, I can explain it to you. And I wish we had a graphic, but there's basically gov.uk.
Yes, I've seen that.
Logo. So the Tories spent 100 grand getting this commissioned, so somebody had to come up with this. And the conversation was, does the dot sit at the bottom between gov.uk, or does it sit in the middle of gov.uk?
But what I can't understand is, how could any group of intelligent people have a meeting to discuss
that? Well, you just answered your own question, mate.
This is what I mean. Why would you waste time discussing this?
They had a huge rebrand for the NHS logo, and they decided in the end just to put it a slightly different name. But imagine what the debate's going to be like for the new face on the British banknotes. How many people are sitting there at this very moment saying, "Oh, we need a focus group. We need to talk about, who can we put on this the new banknotes?"
I know.
Absolutely.
More public money being wasted.
Instead of such as somebody says,
we've got the logo. Here we go. Right. So this is what your taxpayers' £500,000 has been spent on. Should the full stop go there?
I thought it said
or
Michael
should it go in the middle? If you're listening on the radio, you've got a blue background, white letters, GOV, dot in the middle, green, UK. Now, this guidance on how to use this dot is 150 pages.
Yes.
And it is longer than the Strategic Defence Review we had recently. And it is 3 times as long as the recent National Security Strategy.
And here's the point about this. They could have put the full stop in the first sentence of this review. It's done.
Yeah, but the other thing is...
One sentence, how you use the
other thing is, while the Defence Review is actually very useful to the country, and whilst it could bring benefits, there is no use to that. Nobody gives a monkey's whether it's gov.uk in the middle or gov.uk at the bottom. Nobody cares.
Oh, no. Mike, you're missing it. The do's.
There's 150 pages say different.
They tell the civil servants you've got to use the dot in a purposeful way.
Yes.
You've got to make sure the dot is serving a clear purpose. You've got to change the colour of the dot if the brand requires more expression.
Yeah, but Bev, what I'm saying is it shows we've got too many civil servants with nothing to do except go to a meeting and talk about a blinking dot in the middle of Gov and UK. It's absolutely pathetic, and to me, it's a great illustration of the wastefulness of the civil service in this country. Do you know we've taken on more civil servants since Starmer got in than we took on in the previous 3 years?
Because that's
and
what
he said he was going to cut public spending.
I wonder what Dot Cotton would have made of it.
He is.
Would you have to change the name?
Well, he's a human rights lawyer.
But a public, he's a public sector.
He is a public sector.
Apparently, the guide says, used within our word mark as a graphic device, the dot is a guiding hand for life.
So the next time I put a full stop at the end of my sentence, I'll be thinking, this is a guiding hand for my life.
Well, I have to say,
encouraged.
May I say, I think a guiding finger would be the appropriate
What about a
response.
semicolon? What is a semicolon then? Is that a guiding hand for a bit of your life?
So many problems the government have got. How can they find civil servants wasting time on this, wasting my tax?
Somebody should ask.
No,
somebody should raise this at Prime Minister's Questions Day, saying this sums up everything that's wrong with this government.
It is PMQs today. Thank you, gentlemen. Right, 60-second news update with Sam Francis. Here you go.
Full stop.
10:30, the top story this hour. The government says it will not raise taxes after a massive climb down on its welfare bill. Labour admits it will have a financial consequence, though, with last-minute concessions slashing savings. Kemi Badenoch says the bill is a total waste of time. Breaking news this hour. Detectives have passed new evidence to prosecutors that could lead to further charges against Lucy Letby. She's already convicted of 7 baby murders. It follows the arrest of 3 former bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital for suspected gross negligence manslaughter. Matt Hancock is giving evidence at the COVID inquiry for the 7th time. The former health secretary oversaw adult care during the pandemic. Bereaved families call the care home outbreak one of the greatest failures. Ofgem has opened an official investigation into the substation fire which caused a catastrophic power outage at Heathrow Airport. The reports found issues were first detected 7 years ago, but not fixed, leading to chaos for over 270,000 passengers. 343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday, bringing the total for the year so far to more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made the illegal journey. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Up next, university academics heard this before. They've been bullied, harassed and intimidated for the terrible crime that they may just be a little bit gender critical. We're asking, how do we preserve free speech in our classrooms and in our universities? This is Britain's Newsroom, GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It could be a cloudier day for some with some showery outbreaks. These could turn heavy, possibly even thundery in many parts, but for many it is going to be feeling a lot cooler than it has done over the last few days. But nevertheless, quite a cloudy start, particularly across eastern and southeastern parts. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, and these showers could be particularly heavy across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England. Could hear the odd rumble of thunder and possibly some heavy showers creeping into the southeast at times too, but for many it should be a largely dry and bright day. Still warm in the sunshine with highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius, but it's going to feel much fresher, not quite as humid as it has done over the last few days. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, largely dry and bright to the west, the most of the showers creeping into eastern areas where once again 1 or 2 could be heavy if not quite blustery, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, mostly dry, though we can't rule out some showers, but definitely fewer showers across northeastern England compared to much of the day, and elsewhere across England and Wales it should be mostly dry and a clear end to the evening, a breeze starting to pick up which should offset the heat as well. But for many, as we head through the overnight period, it is going to feel much fresher, not quite as muggy and as uncomfortable, and for many it should remain largely dry. That's away from the northwest though, cloud creeping in here and also some showers by the time we reach the early hours of the morning, but this time lows reaching the high single figures, so definitely not going to feel quite as warm to start on Thursday compared to what we've had over recent days. Now for many on Thursday, largely dry and bright, plenty of blue skies, particularly across the south and southeast, but once again across the northwest, more cloud pushing in here, some quite blustery showers, and once again 1 or 2 of these could turn rather heavy. So feeling a little fresher under cloudier skies, but once again warm and any sunshine, particularly across central parts and across the south. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M9 westbound is closed between junctions 3 and 4 due to an incident causing delays. Maintenance on the A470 near Betty WSI Coed results in closures and diversions. In Oxfordshire, a load spillage closes one M4 northbound lane between junctions 8A and 9. Further south, the A303 eastbound faces partial closures due to a broken down vehicle. Traffic is slow on the A1M northbound in Durham following a collision. And on the trains, Gatwick Express is not running, and Avanti West Coast faces disruptions between Stoke-on-Trent and Macclesfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to Promotional.
Caught in the act of reading the Daily Telegraph.
It wasn't the Daily Telegraph, it's your digestive biscuit.
Well,
We've gone early on the biscuits today. We've gone at 10:30 rather than 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
so I'll just put my digestive to one side. Thank you, though, Andrew.
Yes.
Right, a new report says that universities are failing to protect academics from harassment and trans activists if they are gender critical. And what that means is they believe that a biological woman is a woman and a biological man is a man.
And why is that gender critical? That's just common sense.
It is.
That is just what we would call common sense. It's what ordinary people think, and it's what the Cass Review said.
Yeah. Well, the review has warned that a chilling effect has been created where even discussing biological sex can lead to bullying and career damage.
So we're asking if the feelings of trans people are now being being made more important than the whole concept of free speech. So who are we going to talk to?
Gender GP Helen Webberley and political commentator Emma Trimble. Good morning to you both. Emma, can you explain what gender critical means? It basically, my understanding is it's the distinction between gender and biological sex, which can be considered to be two very different things.
Well, you've said it there, Bev. It's the belief in biological sex, and many feminists who get called gender critical feminists, very often as a slur, they get accused of being TERFs. They are standing up for sex-based rights on the ground that a lot of the demands that are being made by trans activists undermine sex-based rights. So that's what a lot of these gender-critical activists are looking for. But in the context of academia, it's just simply somebody who believes believes in biological sex. I mean, it seems silly to try and explain it because it's something that is, something that everybody just accepted as a fact until 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. Helen, is that your analysis of the situation? And how do you react when you hear that teachers and lecturers are being bullied and harassed if they don't jump into the little Overton window that says any of us could have been born in the wrong body?
Well, it's quite a sweeping statement, isn't it? I think what you have to be very careful about is that the Equality Act protects 9 protected characteristics. One of those is gender reassignment, and one of those is sex. And there may be some confusion between the two. But if you're allowing gender critical rules, what you're actually saying is we don't believe in the gender reassignment protected characteristic, and that's really dangerous. Can you imagine if we had people, if we were sitting here debating whether we were allowing colour critical views, or race and religion, or level of ability critical views, and whether our lecturers and teachers and educators in schools and universities were allowed to make publications and speech and teach their students on critical views against somebody's colour. There would be an outrage. And yet we're quite, in 2025, we're quite able to be permitted to be gender critical, i.e. we don't believe that people can undergo gender reassignment, reassign their sex.
Emma, come in.
Well, that's not what this is about. I think we've seen examples of certain activist groups, I won't name them, speaking to educational institutions, for example, misleading them over the Equality Act, because you mentioned gender reassignment, but a lot of this is to do with self-ID and simply saying that you identify as another gender and then trying to compel the speech of others to use your pronouns.
To be fair, Emma, the Equality Act protects gender reassignment. It doesn't say that somebody else has to tell you what gender you are. It says if you're thinking about undergoing, if you have undergone, or considering it. So there's nobody saying you over there have to tell me what my gender is. Who else is the best person to tell somebody what their gender is? So no, it's not about self-identification. This is about protecting people who are undergoing gender, or have undergone, or considering undergoing gender reassignment.
Emma?
With respect, that is not what is happening on university campuses. People are having their speech compelled. I mean, the University of Sussex has just received...
Hang on, let Emma finish her point, Helen.
Look, I mean, one example is the Office for Students recently did some polling. They found that 1 in 5 academics feel that they're not comfortable teaching controversial views on campus. The crisis of free speech on university campuses is real. Now, you might say, there is this distinction between gender reassignment in the Equality Act and those who are trying to compel other people's speech when it comes to the use of pronouns and so on. But actually, what this is about, I mean, a lot of activists, trans activists, they talk about feelings, they talk about harm, they say that people are trying to harm them, that people are questioning their existence. Well, those who are advocating for sex-based rights are also saying that their existence very fundamentally is under threat because the whole idea of sex is being undermined by what some of these activists on campuses are making demands of these academics. And so actually what this is about is respecting people's freedom of conscience and freedom of speech, and somebody's right to self-identify cannot be put above that. So you might make that distinction, but that certainly isn't what's going on campuses.
Helen, let me bring you back in, because I mentioned then when Emma said speech is being policed, you said quite rightly so. That, I'm afraid, goes to the heart of why there is such resistance to some of the good that trans activists are trying to do. It is not your job to police anybody's speech.
We have to adhere to the law, and I'll go back to the Equality Act. People who are transgender exist, and there are many people trying to deny the fact that transgender people exist, and the Equality Act protects them. And for other people to think that they have the freedom of speech to deny the existence of transgender people and to deny them their sex-based rights is not something that we want in our schools and universities.
But why does it matter to them?
Why does it matter to who?
Why does it matter? Why does it matter to the trans woman?
Oh,
that genuinely,
no.
It's a genuine question.
Matter. Of course they matter.
No.
I can't believe you're asking that question.
Listen to my question. I'm not saying why does it matter as in we don't care about their feelings. Trans people are no doubt vulnerable, some of the most vulnerable people in society. I would absolutely agree with you on that. But the idea that if I'm in a room with somebody that has transitioned to be a trans woman, that I have to collude in the fiction that they are a woman because I see biological sex as immutable. I will call that person whatever pronoun they want to be called. I will respect them. But I refuse to buy into the lie that they are the same as me. And why does it matter to that trans person that I buy into that fiction?
I think all trans people, why are they vulnerable? There is no need at all in our civilized society for a particular group of people, whether they are black or religious or less able-bodied or particular sexuality or have undergone gender reassignment. There's no reason at all that they should be a vulnerable community in our society. Why are they vulnerable? Because people like you are able to say, they can do what they like, but I ain't going along with it. Biological sex is what I'm going along with. That ain't a woman, that's a man. And actually, I think that's atrocious behaviour in our society today.
No, I'm not saying it's a man. I'm saying it's a trans woman. I'm not saying it's a man. I'm saying that person is a trans woman. I'm not saying they're a man. I will absolutely respect their right to be called a trans woman, but I will not respect their right to be considered the same as me biologically. Because then I think this is the problem, is the willingness...
What do you mean biologically? What do you mean there?
As in born with biological female genitals, reproductive system, all of those physiological elements which make our experience so distinctly different to, say, my co-presenter.
Quite.
Well, I think if you were born with all the bits that you describe, your womb, your ovaries, your cervix, then you're a very lucky woman. Not all women are born with that exact perfect anatomy, whether that means intersex or transgender or other chromosomal or physical anomaly, if you like. Not everybody is as lucky as you. And I think we need to just make some space for those people who were not born with that particular
we've made
reproductive
space.
system.
We have made space. And I think most people are incredibly accommodating. And I think there's a real difference between not wishing any real harm on an individual person, which I would never wish to do, and also being able to push back as a biological woman to say, we also matter in all sorts of areas, be that awards or sports or recognition and health. Emma, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, Emma, go on.
I mean, I agree with you, Bev. But nobody's denying that gender dysphoria exists. Nobody's denying that people who undergo sex reassignment surgery exist. What people are questioning is whether or not they should be compelled, as you put it, Bev, to collude in the fiction of saying that these people actually become women and share our sex. And I think that the issue here is, as you very rightly put it, Bev, is that people are being compelled to say something that they do not believe is true, and that is straightforwardly wrong. And in an academic setting in particular, where you need to have academic freedom, that is the purpose of the academy, you cannot have people unable to express that. And frankly, in my opinion, all of this stuff about gender being separate from sex is simply a belief. And I don't agree with it. And I have the right to be able to say so.
All right, listen, we've got to go. It's a fascinating discussion. No, I left it to you three, actually. Thanks so much for coming on. Jenny GP, Helen Webberley, and political commentator Emma Trimble, because you have to be on at time. But plenty more to come. In search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for our European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue, many areas seeing temperatures widely in the mid to high 30s, and this could be enough to trigger some thunderstorms across the Alps. But across Portugal, Spain, mostly settled, but still those intense temperatures starting to drop away from Thursday onwards. Some quite heavy showers across parts of Switzerland. These could bring some intense hail and also some frequent lightning. But as we move our way eastwards across the Mediterranean, mostly settled, plenty of sunshine and temperatures widely still in the mid to high 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
They're fast, but alligators, we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison. How to run away. Don't run in a straight line. Run like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%.
Donald Trump being uncharacteristically tough on migration. Not sure alligators is necessarily the answer. Chairman of Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson. Greg, look at the energy he puts into it, and the imagery. I mean, that would send a shiver down the spines of people who might be thinking of hopping across the border from Mexico.
So maybe they'll consider not immigrating illegally into the country, or maybe the ones who've already done that will consider taking the $1,000 offer and voluntarily leaving the country. But it's classic President Trump. He's taunting on one hand.
He is.
He's provocative, but also, he's bringing some levity to it. We haven't seen that, really from either party's president since Reagan.
And how popular is he on immigration in America? I know his polls aren't great, but on this...
It's polling, by far, it's the #1 issue that he polls the best. And so, depending on the poll, but 66% of Hispanics endorse mass deportation.
Because they don't want these migrants taking their jobs.
That's right. I mean, there's a long list of reasons, but, it's a very popular... It's really his most effective issue right now. And he basically fixed it, right? And remember, only a year ago, the U.S., much like the government here, was giving illegal migrants, debit cards and mobile phones and hotel rooms and food vouchers. And basically, Biden had turned the border security over to the Mexican human trafficking and drug cartels. So, this is night and day from a year ago. He's basically solved the problem in just a few months.
We've got this big, beautiful bill, as he calls it, coming up, which is proving very controversial, Greg. Just explain to our viewers why it's so messy.
It's partly because they put a lot in there. So it is a massive bill and it covers a lot of ground. But it's also, basically, it's extending, the most important part about the bill is it's extending the 2017 tax cuts, or tax reform, let's call it. And that's really important, because if they didn't sign the bill, it would be a massive tax increase. And those tax cuts were very successful. They paid for themselves. Tax revenues are up 50% from 2017.
More money in people's pocket.
Exactly.
The old rule.
The economy grew, corporations made more money, and most importantly, individual workers, wage earners, made considerably more money, 6.8% wage growth in 2019 alone. Over the 4 years, 2% a year, so 8% in real inflation-adjusted wage growth. After, 8 years of anemic growth under Obama, where it was 4 times the wage growth of the Obama years, where it was 0.5% a year. And then, of course, you had the Biden years where wages went down, inflation-adjusted. So real wages were down 3% under Biden. They're up already under Trump.
Amazing, isn't it?
Thank you, Greg. Sorry it was short and sweet, but always good to see you.
Great to have you on the programme.
Here's weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It could be a cloudier day for some, with some showery outbreaks. These could turn heavy, possibly even thundery in many parts, but for many it is going to be feeling a lot cooler than it has done over the last few days. But nevertheless, quite a cloudy start, particularly across eastern and southeastern parts. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, and these showers could be particularly heavy across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England. Could hear the odd rumble of thunder, and possibly some heavy showers creeping into the southeast at times too. But for many it should be a largely dry and bright day. Still warm in the sunshine, with highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius, but it's going to feel much fresher, not quite as humid as it has done over the last few days. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, largely dry and bright to the west, that most of the showers creeping into eastern areas, where once again 1 or 2 could be heavy, if not quite blustery, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England. Mostly dry, though we can't rule out some showers, but definitely fewer showers across northeastern England compared to much of the day. And elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be mostly dry and a clear end to the evening. A breeze starting to pick up, which should offset the heat as well. But for many, as we head through the overnight period, it is going to feel much fresher, not quite as muggy and as uncomfortable, and for many it should remain largely dry. That's away from the northwest though. Cloud creeping in here, and also some showers by the time we reach the early hours of the morning, but this time lows reaching the high single figures, so definitely not going to feel quite as warm to start on Thursday compared to what we've had over recent days. Now for many on Thursday, largely dry and bright, plenty of blue skies, particularly across the south and southeast, but once again across the northwest, more cloud pushing in here, some quite blustery showers, and once again 1 or 2 of these could turn rather heavy. So feeling a little fresher under cloudier skies, but once again warm and any sunshine, particularly across central parts and across the south. Bye-bye.
expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 2nd of July, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Morning. So, flag wars. The Chief Executive of Warwickshire County Council has refused to remove a pride flag and a Ukraine flag on the County Hall, despite orders from the new Reform leadership. We're going to be debating it.
These Dickensian cuts belong to a different era and a different party.
It is with a heavy, broken heart that I will be voting against this bill today.
This is crazy, man. This is outrageous, man.
They were Labour MPs talking about the welfare reform bill, which effectively limped through the House of Commons yesterday, but with a massive Labour rebellion of 49 MPs voting against. We're asking this as the Prime Minister lost all his credibility already.
Dotty civil servants. The Blob has published a 150-page dossier on how to use the dot in the government's new £500,000 website logo. Is that a good use of time and your money?
Of course it isn't.
We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible?
So, Donald Trump there threatening to set the Department of Government Efficiency on Elon Musk. They've locked horns again over the President budget's plans. And sticking with Trump.
But we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison.
In his immigration crackdown, the American president visits alligator Alcaraz and jokes about how to solve illegal migration. It's a prison surrounded by large reptiles. But here in the UK, we've had record 20,000 small boat migrants crossing the Channel this year alone.
And we've got another student visa scandal. Leading think tank is warning international study routes are being used as a backdoor for long-term migration to the UK.
And if I wasn't here, I'd be sat watching this live and pulling out my own fingernails. Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock is giving evidence at the COVID inquiry and defends his decision-making during the pandemic. Flag wars, does it matter?
I think it's fascinating because this is one of the things they said they would do, reform. They've taken over 11 councils, I think, up and down the land, and they said their decision will be what flags can fly from the town hall, and you get an unelected chief executive, she says she knows best. Why do we need a pride flag above any town hall, actually?
I guess the question is, why do we need a British flag above the town hall? Why do we need English flags? Why? Because if we don't, we are rapidly losing a sense of who we are as a nation state.
And if I was running the town hall, I would say I want the British flag and the town and the county flag.
Oh, I like that. Well, I think that's what Reform have said, isn't it? They can
you want
have
the county flag?
Union Jack. I think maybe the England flag as well, obviously, if it's an English council.
Yeah.
Or the Scottish flag, the Welsh flag.
Or the Welsh flag.
Yeah.
If they run counts in Wales, it'd be the Welsh flag and the county flag. Why not?
Does it matter? That's what I want to know from you. GBNews.com/your say. Let's get some news headlines now with Sam Francis.
Bev, Andrew, thank you very much. Just after 11 o'clock, the top story. The government's welfare bill passed by 335 votes to 260 last night, but 49 Labour MPs still voted against it. Last-minute concessions mean the savings target has been slashed from £5 billion to almost zero. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says the welfare bill is now a total waste of time. Well, Shadow Finance Secretary Gareth Davies also claims the climb down has left a huge hole in Labour's spending plans.
Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, now has to find an additional £3 to £7 billion if you look at the winter fuel U-turn, the U-turns last night, and there's a raging debate in the Labour Party at the moment about the two-child cap. And so if you add all that up, it's about £7 billion she's going to have to find. We're clear that this is probably going to come from additional taxation in the autumn, and we're trying to warn the public about that right now.
Meanwhile, Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, admits there will be financial consequences because of the changes.
If you're not saving money from this, it has to come from somewhere. All of that will have to be taken into the round, along with all the other government expenditure pressures when we reach a budget later in the year. I'm not going to speculate about that now, but I do acknowledge there's a financial consequence to the decision reached last night.
In other news this morning, murder squad detectives have passed new evidence to prosecutors, raising the prospect of further charges against child killer Lucy Letby. The Crown Prosecution Service is now reviewing that file, which relates to more baby deaths and collapses at hospitals where she worked. It comes after 3 former bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital were arrested for suspected gross negligence manslaughter. Lucy Letby is already serving 14 life terms for murdering and attempting to murder babies between 2015 and 16. Police say corporate manslaughter investigations into hospital leadership are ongoing. Matt Hancock is facing the COVID inquiry again today, his 7th time, and is what expected to be his final appearance. He oversaw care services in England as more than 43,000 people died with COVID, many in the pandemic's early weeks. One civil servant called the scale of care home deaths a generational slaughter. For the next 5 weeks, the inquiry will hear from bereaved families, carers, unions and providers. A major fire that shut down Heathrow Airport was caused by a fault first detected 7 years ago, according to a new report. Moisture was found in 2018 inside a key component at the substation that caught fire, but maintenance was delayed and cancelled. When the fault sparked a blaze in March, it led to 270,000 disruptions. disrupted journeys and nearly 67,000 customers losing power. Ofgem has now launched an investigation into potential licence breaches by the national grid. Heathrow called the outage catastrophic and blamed a failure to maintain critical infrastructure. Donald Trump says Hamas has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, but Israel has not yet confirmed that deal. Trump warns Hamas will only get worse if they don't take the deal. Meanwhile, Israel continues its military action, with evacuations taking place in northern Gaza. And smell detectors and AI cameras could be used to catch drug use in prisons and in the community. Tech companies are pitching devices that could monitor offenders' behaviour and help improve staff safety. The Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is calling it a digital prison outside a prison. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with a quick roundup at 11:30. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Bev.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
11:07, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev. Let's see what you've been saying at home. Bristlecone, I presume it's not your real name, has said no such thing as a pride flag. It's just like a stripy beach towel. Union flag takes top spot, followed by country flag, England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Second spot, and then... I think he means Ireland. Second spot, and then if wanted, the relevant county flag, that's it. Torch all the rest. If anyone doesn't like it, I suggest they go forth and multiply.
Well, don't want to too much. Country's full up already.
Mike says, no, we need more babies.
Yeah.
Birth rate is going through the floor, actually. Mike says, sack the CEO from Warwickshire Council and also save some money. Reform who were elected choose the flags, not the unelected CEO.
Well, that's the point. And this is going to be a big test for the Reform councillors there. They're going to have to get on with it. I'm just going to check what the Chief Executive earns there. I bet it's a big bumper salary.
Marcus said, morning Mark, COVID inquiry, Tory mates got rich while making the country bankrupt, inquiry done. I mean, like I said, if I wasn't here, and I've got it on pause on YouTube, I will watch the COVID inquiry with Matt Hancock trying to cover his own backside again, because I still think we shouldn't look away. We haven't repaired any of the damage that's been done. No one's been held to account. And I am still angry. Wynne says, who signed off on the document and wasted time and our money? Such crass nonsense, Bev. They need to be pulled up for that. Get a committee of MPs interested, but they'll be called bullies for checking up on more than irregular spend. How many more millions of pounds are wasted this way? Well, funnily enough, the one person who has come out and commented on this is Zia Youssef of the Reform Party, who is in charge of Reform's Doge department. We've heard Donald Trump talking about it this morning, the Department of Government Efficiency. So he is going into councils that Reform have the authority to do so and saying, let me see your books, I want to audit what you're spending your money on. And this is where some of this stuff is coming out now.
When they get to have this fight with the Chief Executive of Warwickshire County Council, they could look at her salary. It's £168,000, and that'll be without pension.
Wow.
So weekly pension contribution would be over £200,000. That's as much as the Prime Minister earns. And whether you agree with Starmer or not doing a good job, a Chief Executive of a council should not be earning anything like what the Prime Minister's salary is.
And the thing is, if you are earning that kind of money, right, and it's a serious job and a sensible job, you don't risk your job by fighting over
stupid battle.
Your stupid flag. Just do what the council that's been elected have asked you to do. Take your money, do the right thing, because we live in a democracy. And frankly, if you voted for Reform and they've said, we will make sure that the only flags outside the town halls are the Union Jack or your county flag, that is what your local constituents have voted for.
And they did say it. Yeah,
they did. They were absolutely
categorical
about it. Carolyn says, in Italy, you may fly another flag as long as the Italian flag is higher and on a different pole. And this is what we were told in the 1960s. I don't know if it's still the same now, Carolyn. It might be. Sounds very Italian, that, doesn't it? Hierarchy.
We should be proud of the flag. We should be proud of the English flag and the British flag. I think we should. You should be proud of your Scottish flag and your Welsh flag.
And I think we are getting there, you know, a little bit. I feel like the dial is turning. Gone are the days of, her name has slipped my mind, the MP who was sneery about the England flag.
Emily Thornberry.
Thank you.
It was draped in her house. It was during one of these football tournaments.
Yeah.
And it was on a white van, and she sneered.
She did. And I feel like that's changing, actually, a little bit now. We've had so many kind of national events, haven't we, particularly with the royal family in the last few years, that I feel like having a Union Jack flag and an
I think it's great.
no longer.
It's good to be patriotic. And, of course, also the flag of St George had been hijacked by, they say, by some racists. But take it back.
Listen, we're going to debate this flag issue straight away because we have approached Monica Fogarty. She is the Chief Executive of Warwickshire County Council, whose salary Andrew has just exposed on national TV.
168,000 your pay. So have you not got time to speak to us? Because I was going to ask you whether you think your salary's up to...
Monica has declined an interview. But we're joined instead by transgender teacher and journalist Debbie Hayton and radio presenter James Barr. Good morning to you both. Lovely to see you. James, should we have pride flags flying outside of town halls?
I can't believe just now you called me a stupid flag. I was listening. I heard that. It was very offensive. I do think we should have pride flags. This conversation is so boring. It's so stupid. Obviously, we should have Union Jacks as well, but there's nothing wrong with having a bit of pride. You just said that you were proud, Andrew. Well, let's be proud and let's fly.
Why the pride flag? Why the pride flag? Why do we need it?
Because it's a way of the council saying we are here for everybody.
Just as hang on a minute.
But what about a flag for women?
Yeah, they should absolutely fly a flag.
And what about a flag for the Caribbean community?
I agree. If they
how many flagpoles are you going to need, James? About a dozen?
Put up as
2 dozen?
many flagpoles as you like, but ultimately it is a sign of solidarity with communities that are being hated on. And there's nothing
give me strength. James, nobody is hating on gay people anymore. It is 2025.
It's a pride flag. It's not just gay people, babes. It's the whole community.
Well, let's cut.
And actually, you say that, but Andrew sat there as a gay man hating on himself.
Yeah, but
so,
why?
I mean,
Let me ask you.
I think there's quite a lot of work to do, actually.
Debbie, we will come to you, Debbie. Don't worry. But James, why do you have to be proud of who you want to have sex with?
Well, it's not about that, is it? It's about being proud of who you are and who you love. It's about
it's about, well, I mean, it's basically, all right, why are you proud of who you love? Because I love men, I love women.
I have had sex with quite a lot of hot men, and I am very proud.
Too much detail.
But there you go.
You asked me the question.
But there you go.
You're asking me a question. I'm going to give... Why are you putting a pointer? Why are you pointing a Posh Spice finger at me?
Because how do I explain that to my teenagers when we walk past the town hall? Debbie.
But that's not what this is. Why are you trying to explain it?
You've just said so,
also,
Debbie.
your teenagers learning about everything in school.
I'm not saying they shouldn't learn about it, but I'm not saying they should be proud of it.
How old is your teenager?
Let's get Debbie in the conversation.
You're talking about your teenager.
No,
knowing
James, hang on. We want to get James. It's a discussion, not a
monologue.
monologue. James, it's not a monologue. We'd like to get Debbie in the conversation.
I am replying to the question.
James, thank you. It's Debbie's turn. Debbie, how do you feel? Do we need to see pride flags fluttering from town halls the length and breadth of the land?
No, we don't. The council's job is to provide public services, not to make political statements. Right. And that flag is a political flag, and it's a politically divisive flag. It's not inclusive at all. That flag has been used by people who have persecuted me, tried to get me fired from my job, simply because, as a transsexual, I don't think trans women are women. I don't think trans men are men. And I don't think we have a gender identity. Those are my views. I'm happy to debate them with anybody. But what I don't want is the councils taking partisan views in that debate. Their job is to see that the schools are run, empty the bins, and conduct and provide all the public services.
And Debbie, on this, hang on a second, James. On this, the Reform were quite clear what they were going to do if they took control of councils, and this was one of the issues. They would say you could have the British flag, the county flag. That's it. And that should be the political will.
Well, and that's what the people of Warwickshire elected. That was their democratic mandate to do that. And now we're in a situation, as you mentioned before, Andrew, where the democratically elected council think one thing and the paid official thinks something else. And we're in a question now of who's in charge in the council. Is it the elected councillors or is it the paid officials?
James,
good point, James.
Well, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer, isn't it? When you look at the entire country, if you zoom out from this one specific issue, which is a flag, and you zoom all the way out and you look at the country, you have to look at the monarchy and be like, well, why does the monarchy get an opinion? They're not voted for. Why do the monarchy exist in this country? Why are they getting to decide?
James, I think you're losing the room here. James, you're losing the room.
I think I lost the room a while ago.
No,
I probably lost my mind. But ultimately, look, we're all entitled to our different opinions. And here's one of the things that I really want to say. Like, as queer people, we are not a monolith. We all have different opinions and different experiences, and that's absolutely fine, of course. So when we say community, we don't mean that we all have the same opinion. And as you can see here on the panel, we don't have the same opinion. And that's brilliant. That's what life should be. And that's why the pride flag is not about a political movement. It's not trying to do that. It's just trying to say everyone's welcome. That's what it means.
However, we do all need to be united under one thing if we choose to live in this country, regardless of who we like to have sex with or brag about it. We have to be united under the fact that we are living in the UK, that we are British. And even if you've come here from another country, then you should embrace British culture and what that means. And that, a big part of that, Debbie, is not being ashamed of our flag, is it not?
No, we all share one flag. We all share the Union flag. It represents us all as that flag.
Yeah. And therefore, James, this is about bringing people together, not dividing them like you're trying to do.
During football games, we should not fly other world flags. Like, how dare Brazil fly their flag when the World Cup is on? We should never fly other countries' flags in this country.
Of course we can do that.
But, James, are you a Democrat? Do you believe in democracy?
Absolutely.
Well, Reform won that control of that council on a manifesto. It said they will decide what flags fly from the county hall, and the unelected, overpaid chief executive is defying the political will of the people.
I think the flag was flown under a pre-existing delegated power, so this is not a democracy hijack. But I'm sure it will be resolved with due course. But I'm not accountable.
If I was Reform, I would pay somebody to climb up the flagpole and remove it.
I'd be shimmying up there myself.
Yeah, exactly. I'd do it myself.
Terrorism.
Yeah. Debbie, what do you think? Debbie, last word to you, Debbie. Debbie, last word to you.
I think individuals can choose to fly whatever flags they wish, but the council's there to represent everybody and should just be flying the Union flag, flag of St George, and the council's flag.
Very good.
100%.
Transgender teacher and journalist Debbie Hayton and radio presenter James Barr. Always a joy to talk to you both. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much.
Very interesting.
You call me babes.
You did?
It's one of my favourite words. Yeah, well, I call other people babes all the time, and my friends take the mickey out of me, so it's quite nice to have it thrown back in my face.
Well, if you called your partner babes, it'd be right.
Oh, Andrew.
Very young.
Now, as the temperatures continue to soar, we got the coolest cash prize of the summer to be won, £54,321. Here's the details.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Now it is time to take a little break, I think. Oh, because up next... Oh, yeah, do you remember we talked about this last week? The government's nanny state plans to ban alcohol adverts on TV. Well, it might be that common sense is...
Well, and I can tell you why. Because the American trade deal could have collapsed over it.
More on that in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
On this day, 4 years ago, GB News was born, launching our first live broadcast on June 13th, 2021.
let's take a look back at some of our earlier memories.
If you've just switched on, a very warm welcome to you. I am Alistair Stewart, and until 3 p.m. this afternoon, I'll be keeping you company, along with friends and, I hope, friendly guests. I hope you'd agree that we've had a strong hour of debate and discussion so far, but there's lots more still to come. GB News is all about you, our viewers. Any burning questions or stories that you think we need to cover, no matter how big or small, we really do want to hear from you.
Well, we can now speak with former GB News presenter Alistair Stewart. Alistair, thank you so much for joining me. Thinking back to 4 years ago, what did you think the channel's prospects were? Did you think it would be a success?
I did. Thank you so much for having me on, and a very happy birthday to you, one of the many brilliant faces, as we call it in the trade, presenting programmes, but also to the absolutely wonderful team of technicians that you've got behind you, making sure that this all gets on air very smoothly. And we've not only hung on in there, but we've now got GB News Radio as well. Online, we're huge. We get quite good numbers on viewing, very, very good numbers on listening, well ahead some of the other competitors. I do remember when Murdoch launched Talk, there were quite a few people in the newsroom who were nervous, not because they were so good, but because Murdoch had so much more money than we did. We've seen them off. They're virtually dead in the water now, and we are thriving, celebrating 4 years of triumphal and brilliant journalism.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just thinking what it would look like.
11:23, Britain's Newsroom, all that clattering and chattering in the background. Mike Parry and Stephen Pound.
Mike Parry was telling us all about his allotment. Apparently he has prize parsnips.
Stephen was, not Mike.
I mean, sorry,
Thank you.
Stephen,
Thank you. What do you think I am? Thank you very much. No, I'm not an allotment holder. I'll tell you, my marrow would make your eyes water.
Stop it, Steve.
Dear me.
Stephen Pound makes Frankie Howard see...
Carry on, Newsroom. Right.
Yes.
What is this about? 20,000 this year and counting.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it's just getting worse, isn't it?
Depressing.
It is too depressing.
Smash the gangs, Mike.
Smash the gangs. Now, I did say on this show about 6 months ago, when that expression first came up, smash the gangs, you know that people smuggling is the world's biggest industry, because it's not just across the English Channel and the Mediterranean, it's across the Rio Grande and all of South America. And to say we'll smash those gangs is like saying, I tell you what, let's get rid of the mafia. It's easy, right? Now, the person who I think has gone in hiding and hiding under the furor of what's happening in the Commons is the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, because she is utterly useless at what's going on. I mean, I saw an interview the other night in which she was saying to the interlocutor who was talking to her, and of course I'm talking to the French, and I've got a new deal with the French. Nobody's done this for 6 years, but they're now going to... She keeps telling us the French are going to be doing things because she keeps giving the French more money, but the French don't... What the French do is they buy little buggies and drive up and down the beach. Hang on a second, Mike. The French are finally getting their rather elegant shoes wet.
There's a picture on the front page of the Sun today. Headline, Buggy Useless. They are driving around in a buggy that cost part of the £500 million package provided by Britain. 3 of them 4 in this buggy, looking at them going into the water.
Exactly.
Well,
there's also evidence that they're actually stopping some of the boats. But look, the thing that the French, at the moment,
There's no evidence of that whatsoever.
I'm sorry, there is.
No,
there isn't. There's no evidence, Stephen. Give us your evidence. There's a photographic evidence.
Photographic evidence.
Reuters, actually. But the reality is that the French, we've been saying for years that the French are just going to say, après vous, monsieur. The French now realise that as long as they do that, all they're doing is encouraging the situation you have in Paris today, where you have massive, great encampments of people all around, particularly around the Gare du Nord. And the message is finally getting through to the French that if you actually allow the people to come here, then go to Britain, you're building up problems back down the line.
I just don't get it. Wouldn't a better expression have been, and a much more realistic one, we're going to let the boats down. You would be able to find the source of where all these boats come from. They're exactly what I'm saying. A lot of them are manufactured
manufactured in China, believe it or not, and then they're deflated, they're sent to Europe, and they're blown up again in Germany. Now, surely MI6, MI5 or the SAS can go and find out where those boats are made and puncture them and destroy them.
We're not going to drop the SAS into Beijing.
Why not?
Because we declare war on...
Well, not Beijing, but certainly into Munich. You could put them into Munich.
Which is what we did. We did last July, a year ago. Right. We actually destroyed an entire warehouse full of them. But look, you say, I mean, stop the boats and smash the gangs are risible, stupid slogans.
Yes.
I think stop the boats, Rishi Sunak's one, is just as silly. But that's the modern politics today. They need that one-strap headline. And if you don't say it, somebody will make it up for you. Like this one, buggy useless.
Right, listen. Bank of England wants the public to get involved in the design of the next series of banknotes. They want to know who you would have on the banknotes.
Well, it's got to be you, isn't it?
Historical figures since 1970, William Shakespeare became the first person other than a monarch to feature on a banknote. And
Jane Austen?
They're asking, Jane Austen as well. So we thought we might give some suggestions to our viewers of alternatives. So I think we've been having some very clever little... so there you...
on a £10 note.
Excellent.
That's me on a £10 note.
I think it looks fine.
That photograph was taken quite a long time ago,
yeah, it seems to have been. Or it's been touched up.
Or it's been photoshopped.
It looks like the young Elizabeth Taylor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Andrew.
Oh, dear me. Talk
that
about...
doesn't look like... I've definitely been touched up.
That's
but-
definitely...
Not the first time. Here's the next one. Here we go.
You want that?
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
that is distinguished. That is what I would call a great £10 note.
That is a middle-aged babe magnet.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God you've not done me.
Here we go.
Oh, dear me.
Stephen Parry looked as surprised as everybody would be if you were on a £10
Well, I have to say, the pound in your pocket is safe.
There we go. Stephen Pound on the £10.
The worry is with
very clever, Evan.
The public will, the banking will choose silly way.
Well, of course they will. Wouldn't you?
Let's choose J.K. Rowling or Catherine Stock, the great hero of the last.
That would be very good.
Hang on, wouldn't you think that some just say now the history of our country, who built our country? I tell you what, why don't we have Lord Nelson? Why don't we have Winston Churchill?
We've had him.
Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
He was French.
Why don't we have these people who built this great country of ours? Queen Victoria.
Yeah, she was German.
Well, the point is, these are the people who created our country, but we won't. We'll have. If I had my way, one person on that note would be John Lennon. John Lennon is the greatest of Britain. John Lennon.
Only because his middle name was Winston.
Not at all, but he's one of the greatest Britons we've ever had. Well, for two reasons. Firstly, he's part of the culture, which was the Beatles. The Beatles weren't just a pop group, they were a culture. They turned the country round, they turned the world round. John Lennon ended the Vietnam War. John Lennon brought down the Berlin Wall. And for that reason alone... I
think you'll find it was Pope John Paul II.
No, I'm telling you, once Russian kids...
Britney Spears.
Once Russian kids got hold of bootleg copies of Beatles records, the rebellion was underway. And the Eastern Bloc said, we want a bit of this. Open their eyes to the West.
So back in the USSR?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
How does that work?
I'm telling you, because there's a Beatles song.
Who are your suggestions?
Has Margaret Thatcher ever been on a banknote?
No, she's a very divisive figure. Look, remember when they had the statue of her, some moron knocked its head off. Remember? There's now a large statue of her in Grantham, which is where she was born.
Well, when that person knocked their head off, I mean, I was when she actually opened the one in Members' Lobby, and she said, of course, they knocked my head off with a cricket bat. It's very British.
Oh, brilliant.
I was there.
Wasn't she clever?
We should have Logie Baird. Logie Baird invented the telly. We should have Mr. Rolls-Royce.
He was a jock.
Because they invented the Rolls-Royce.
We're on it, so we've got to stop talking. Mike, Stephen, thank you so much. Don't forget, it's PMQs at midday. Gloria and Tom want your question. GBNews.com/your say.
Bev on the banknote.
Oh, there's Keir
And he just tripped. And he tripped. Metaphor for his entire premiership. Let's be that again. Entire premiership. That was the metaphor for
You're listening on the radio. Keir Starmer twisted his ankle as he walked out.
It's a Joe Biden moment. It's a Joe Biden moment.
Make it up. Stephen Pound's head in his hand in horror. Unbelievable. He can't even walk out a front door properly.
What was that? What's the American expression? Can't walk straight and chew gum at the same time.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office.
After reaching 34.7 degrees Celsius yesterday, it is going to be a fresher feeling day for all, though we are expecting some heavy showers with a Met Office thunderstorm warning in force across northeastern parts of England. And it's all thanks to these frontal systems sweeping their way eastwards across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England, but also at times across the far southeast too, where once again we're expecting some heavy, possibly thundery showers as we head towards the afternoon. And there will be a mix of sunny spells and showers across Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, but for many areas it is going to be a dry and bright afternoon, feeling a lot fresher, not quite as muggy, but still warm in the sunshine, highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, yes, we are still expecting plenty of showers, still plenty of cloud, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, but turning a little brighter from the west as we progress through the evening. Similar across Northern Ireland, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but the heaviest of those showers across northeastern England should start to ease away, leaving a few more clearer skies to finish off this afternoon. And elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be fairly similar, largely dry and bright, and remaining dry through most of the night. Any showers across Scotland, once again, easing away and staying dry as we head through the early hours of the morning, but we will start to see a return of the clouds, some showery outbreaks just starting to move into western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. But for many, staying dry, and it's definitely not going to feel quite as muggy as it has done earlier in the week, lows reaching around the high single figures, so a much fresher start to the day. And that leads us into mostly settled conditions. Once again, plenty of blue skies, plenty of sunny spells, and temperatures creeping into the mid-20s once again, so warm in any sunshine, but a different feel across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, a return of the cloud and the heavy blustery showers, and always feeling a little fresher here, temperatures widely in the mid-teens, but otherwise another warm and pleasant afternoon.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Very good morning, you're live with GB News. The headlines this hour. The government says it will not raise taxes after a massive climb down on its welfare reform bill. Labour, though, admits it will have a financial consequence, with last-minute concessions slashing savings from £5 billion to almost zero. Kemi Badenoch says the bill is a total waste of time. Detectives have passed new evidence to prosecutors that could lead to further charges against Lucy Letby, the child killer nurse already convicted of 7 murders. It follows the arrest of 3 former bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Ofgem has opened an official investigation into the substation fire which caused a catastrophic power outage at Heathrow Airport. Reports found issues were first detected 7 years ago, but not fixed, leading to chaos for over 270,000 passengers. 343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday, bringing the total for the year so far to more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made the illegal journey to the UK. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news after Prime Minister's questions.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
11:35, the Britain's News on GB News with Andrew and Bev. We're preparing now for Prime Minister's questions, and Sir Keir Starmer just left number 10. Have a look. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't laugh.
I know.
We're being very childish.
That will be replayed again and again because it becomes the metaphor for this accident-prone, gaffe-prone Prime Minister. And Joe Biden, look, it haunted him. He used to fall down going up steps, let alone down them.
So, just to be clear, if you're listening on the radio, he steps out of a door that he's probably stepped out of hundreds of thousands of times before. I don't know why he managed to do that. So he walks out, he obviously catches his heel, he grabs the railings, tries to style it out and walks to his car.
And he knows instantly how that's going to look.
I feel a bit sorry for him, I can't lie, that's a bit embarrassing.
Don't feel sorry for him. Please don't feel sorry for him.
How many times are you going to get to watch that?
Well, I tell you...
I do feel sorry for him.
And when a Prime Minister loses his luck, or her luck, tends to desert him for a long time.
He's manifesting, isn't he? The bad energy starts, and then the bad energy just carries on and carries on. He needs some Reiki.
Yeah.
Right, moving on.
There was a very interesting...
We've got to move on.
Someone said the other day, this is a Prime Minister who's never been tipsy in 35, 40 years.
He was just tipsy walking out of that door. Right, a major new report claims that international students are using university courses as a backdoor to long-term migration.
So this comes from the think tank Policy Exchange, which says too many overseas students arrive not to study, but to stay, with 2 in 5 switching to other visas within a year of arriving.
Let's get more with the research fellow at the Policy Exchange, Zachary Marsh. Good morning, Zachary. So tell us about this research and why it raises some troubling issues.
Good morning. Well, I think the issue that we've diagnosed in this report is that essentially international students are a huge contributing factor to the overall net migration figures we're seeing. So there are about 730,000 international students in the UK at the moment. Over 400,000 international student visas were given out to students and dependents last year. And this accounts for 43% of non-travel visas given out in the UK. So it's a huge figure in the context of illegal and legal migration. And what concerns us and what we've written about in the report is basically that the issue appears to be that the incentives are wrong, and that while many international students are coming here to benefit from a world-class education at our brilliant UK universities, and they contribute by doing so, and we continue to welcome that, too many are being induced to come here by the work opportunities that often come with international students, particularly the graduate visa route, which is basically this 2-year scheme where if you study in the UK, you can basically remain on a blank check visa for 2 years, study, work, do whatever you like. And a lot of those people are going into quite low-paying, low-skilled work. The average salary is under £21,000 a year for these individuals. And clearly something is not working in the system at the moment, and we are attracting people for the wrong reasons, and that's what this report addresses.
And the thing is, Zachary, we know that the last government introduced a change which this current government took the benefit for when they said that students would no longer be able, from internationals, would no longer be able to bring in endless relatives, which saw an immediate decline in the immigration figures. But this is a new loophole you've identified. If you've identified it, why hasn't the government?
So you're completely right. We have seen a drop in the numbers coming after there was a crackdown on dependents under the last Conservative government, but the numbers still remain really shockingly high. I think the government has identified the problem, and the recent immigration white paper proposes some changes. For example, they want to reduce the length of the graduate visa from 2 years to 18 months. But it doesn't go nearly far enough, and we're calling for the graduate visa route to be scrapped altogether, which was the situation we were in between 2012 and 2019 when this didn't exist. And the university sector managed that completely fine. And we're arguing that we need to return to a situation where the pitch from British universities is come here, study, learn at our great institutions, not that this is a backdoor loophole for you to potentially come and work and settle in the UK.
So just to be clear, Zachary, if you got rid of the visa, does that mean the students wouldn't be able to come here?
Not at all, not at all. So we're not proposing to make any changes to the international student visa aside from increasing the language requirements. So we still want to welcome students to come here, make the great contributions they do already. What we're suggesting we get rid of is this top-up visa where students currently have the option at the end of their studies to move on to the 2-year graduate visa, which is basically just a free work pass for anyone who's choosing to come here as a student. And we don't think that's a sensible thing to keep.
I don't know why we had it in the first place. Why did we have it in the first place?
Well, it was conceived as a plan to bring the best and the brightest here. And look, if you've come and you've done a physics degree at, UCL, we want you to stay in the UK. We want you to contribute. You've got skills and talent to bring here. But at the moment, it's a completely blank check. You can come here regardless of what you've studied, regardless of the institution you were at. And what we're saying is, look, you should be able to stay here. There are other routes. You can get a skilled worker visa. You can make the case for staying in the UK when you finish your studies. But you shouldn't have this blank check visa at the end of your time in the UK.
Interesting. OK, thank you so much. From the Policy Exchange there, Zachary Marsh, a government spokesperson, has said A series of measures have already been laid out in the Immigration White Paper to restore control over the system, including reducing the graduate visa from 2 years to 18 months.
Well, but as they're saying, the think tank, get rid of it altogether.
Yeah, interesting.
Why do we need them to stay?
Right.
We're going to go to Westminster, because it's PMQs today. It's an open goal, I would have thought, for Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader.
Andrew, last night was extraordinary in the House of Commons. You could feel the authority of the government just dripping and dripping away. They tried to cut £5 billion when they started this all off last week. They ended up accidentally spending £100 million, not even cutting a penny. I mean, it is just the most extraordinary sapping of authority. It'll be fascinating to see the atmosphere in the House of Commons this afternoon.
Yeah, Kemi really does have that open goal, and we're going to see what sort of Prime Minister we face today. Contrition, fight back. Does he have anything to fight back with? But the most important thing is we have this panel of politicians. They're here for you, listening or watching, and it's your questions we put to them, and that's gbnews.com/yoursay. Sending them in, watch it with us, and tell us what you want us to ask them.
And tell us where you come from as well. We love to tell our politicians what your question is, but crucially, where in the country you come from, and put that to our panel.
OK, brilliant. Gloria and Tom here from midday. Now, what are we going to do next? Oh, I know. We're going to be hearing from Professor Alice Sullivan. She's the lead author of a report looking into how freedom of speech is under threat at our universities.
She's going to tell us about the findings, but before that, if you're in search of some holiday sun, do a bit here actually. It's been raining this morning, so much for the heat wave. Here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue, many areas seeing temperatures widely in the mid to high 30s, and this could be enough to trigger some thunderstorms across the Alps. But across Portugal, Spain, mostly settled, but still those intense temperatures starting to drop away from Thursday onwards. Some quite heavy showers across parts of Switzerland. These could bring some intense hail and also some frequent lightning. But as we move our way eastwards across the Mediterranean, mostly settled, plenty of sunshine and temperatures widely still in the mid to high 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, if you're watching earlier, you will have seen actually quite a fun debate, but it was quite heated, about whether about whether there should be gender-critical academics, should be free from harassment from staff and trans activists.
So we're going to talk now to Alice Sullivan, who is Professor of Sociology at University College London, who wrote this report, which was commissioned by the government. Good morning to you, Alice, if we can use your first name.
Good morning.
Just how widespread is intimidation of academics who have the temerity to say they believe in a biological woman and a biological man?
It is widespread, and I think we're all aware of the most dramatic public cases like those of Kathleen Stock and Joe Phoenix. But there's a much wider chilling effect for other academics who see those cases and bite their tongues because they do not want to be the next victim of a witch hunt. There's also much more insidious processes in universities that are less obvious. So things like ethics committees not allowing people to do research that where they want to collect data on sex or use sex-based language or examine topics like gender medicine. So there are things going on behind the scenes that are just as damaging as the big public cases.
And how do those things behind the scenes, Alice, how are they able to happen without someone in the room calling them out?
I think it's part of it is that universities have become more and more bureaucratic over time. And I think this is widely recognised as just a problem in and of itself. But it's also a problem because when you've got bureaucracies, you've got committees for everything. The ethics committee, for example, activists will join that committee because they see a mechanism of influence and then they can cause problems. And other academics may be frightened to stand up to them for the obvious reasons, because they can see the harassment and bullying that comes with being open about thinking that sex is real and that it's an important category.
Well, we had on our debate earlier, we spoke to Emma Trimble, and she said about, but you're policing our freedom of speech. Now, our other guest, Helen Weberly, who is a gender GP, she said, but quite right too. We should be policing your language. And that's an extraordinary position that we've got to in 2025, because the risks of that are what to academia?
Well, if policing your language means that we can't use sex-based language, so we can't talk about people being male or female, then that just means there are questions that we can't ask, let alone answer. So if you're doing public opinion research, for example, to take what you might think is quite an innocuous example, you want to know what people think about males being allowed to participate in female sports. You can't even ask the question if you're not allowed to refer to males and females in clear, plain language.
She also seemed to be arguing that even the language you use is one thing. You've got to think the way they think. But both Bev and I have the same view. You're a biological man, biological woman. That's it. But she says you've got to be able to share the view. What did you call it?
Well, collude in the fiction. Collude in the fiction that person is a woman as opposed to a trans woman.
So they even want to tell us how to think.
And this is so unhelpful, particularly when it's combined with the claim that if you don't go along with that, then somehow you're denying the existence of trans people or you wish them harm.
That's right.
And this is an incredibly damaging thing to tell young people who identify as trans, because they're being told that if people disagree with them, then they wish them harm and that they should feel threatened. That's so damaging, both psychologically and educationally. We need to tell our young people that disagreement is okay, and encourage them to see it as a learning experience rather than a threat.
And bring back robust debate. That's what our academics should be doing. Alice, thank you so much. Fascinating. Professor of Sociology there at the University College London, Alice Sullivan, who wrote that report.
So, of course, because we do balance here on GB News, a government spokesperson responds saying we are taking strong action to protect academic freedom and free speech, which are fundamental to our world-leading universities.
We'll try harder. Still to come, Cammy Badenoch is taking on Sir Keir Starmer at PMQs at midday. Be with us for all the build-up. Don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It could be a cloudier day for some with some showery outbreaks. These could turn heavy, possibly even thundery in many parts, but for many it is going to be feeling a lot cooler than it has done over the last few days. But nevertheless, quite a cloudy start, particularly across eastern and southeastern parts. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, and these showers could be particularly heavy across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England. Could hear the odd rumble of thunder and possibly some heavy showers creeping into the southeast at times too, but for many it should be a largely dry and bright day. Still warm in the sunshine with highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius, but it's going to feel much fresher, not quite as humid as it has done over the last few days. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, largely dry and bright to the west, that most of the showers creeping into eastern areas where once again one or two could be heavy if not quite blustery, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, mostly dry, though we can't rule out some showers, but definitely fewer showers across northeastern England compared to much of the day, and elsewhere across England and Wales it should be mostly dry and a clear end to the evening, a breeze starting to pick up which should offset the heat as well. But for many, as we head through the overnight period, it is going to feel much fresher, not quite as muggy and as uncomfortable, and for many it should remain largely dry. That's away from the northwest though, cloud creeping in here and also some showers by the time we reach the early hours of the morning, but this time lows reaching the high single figures, so definitely not going to feel quite as warm to start on Thursday compared to what we've had over recent days. Now for many on Thursday, largely dry and bright, plenty of blue skies, particularly across the south and southeast, but once again across the northwest, more cloud pushing in here, some quite blustery showers, and once again one or two of these could turn rather heavy. So feeling a little fresher under cloudier skies, but once again warm and any sunshine, particularly across central parts and across the south. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is PMQs, of course, today.
It is. Now, it's an open goal, in my view, for Kemi Baig, not the Conservative Party leader, because even Labour loyalists are admitting yesterday was chaos, shambles. They got the welfare bill through, but it's meaningless because it saves absolutely no money whatsoever. In fact, it's going to cost them probably 100 million quid extra.
The thing is...
U-turn after U-turn after U-turn.
And what this does, and you will know more about this than me, but what these sort of fractious divisions do in a political party at this stage in a parliament is undermine the authority. And they empower those backbenchers who suddenly were not influential in any way. And they've managed to put a massive shot across the bows of the Prime Minister.
Some of these Labour MPs who've been taking big parts in this debate, most people have never heard of them. They're not the usual suspects.
Right.
They're middle of the road. And they've seen now that they've got huge power. And the whips who enforce discipline were saying to MPs a few days ago, oh, if you vote against, you'll never be promoted. You had to withdraw all of that. And the Prime Minister was, the Prime Minister was calling, the Prime Minister's team were calling Labour MPs saying, would you like to come and have a chat with the Prime Minister? I'm busy.
Oh.
Imagine. That's how much his authority has been shattered.
I've frequently drawn the comparison between parenting and politics, because I always think a really good leader is like a really good parent.
Yeah.
And you don't say one thing and do another.
Right.
And you don't put a boundary in place and then say, oh, it doesn't matter after all. If you're going to be disciplined and you're going to lead, you have to be a good parent and you have to be a good politician. It's the same thing. And especially when you see the rabble on a day like this, they're all behaving like children.
I know. The Prime Minister's just arrived. He sat on the front bench grinning like a Cheshire
with his
cat.
sore ankle.
What's he got to laugh about? What's he got to laugh about? Because this is the biggest setback to a new Prime Minister in my lifetime.
Listen, he's got to style it out. What else do you do at a time like this as a Prime Minister? You've got to smile and pretend that everything is OK, even when you just walked out of your front door and twisted your ankle and had to grab onto the railings as you made your way to the Range Rover. Sorry, I'm not laughing. It was
How many times has he walked out of that door?
Many.
And on the one day he trips up, it's the day after the biggest rebellion of his premiership. 49 Labour MPs voted against, but we've just totted it up. 18 more MPs abstained. That is a huge, huge rebellion. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, you've been very busy on the inbox this morning. You've enjoyed the show this morning. Thank you for staying in with us this morning. Marsha says, looking forward to PMQs unless Starmer pulls a sickie, because he's going to be given hell today, hopefully. It's about time these institutions are shaken up. This is Maz responding to our debate earlier about the universities not having free speech. What is the point of a place of learning if students are only intimidated into thinking what the cult wants them to think? It's been a slow drip of brainwashing using fear. Get in there, shake the heck out of them. These tutors should also be looked at. They're there to teach, not to indoctrinate. It is insidious. Thank you, Maz. I think that's really well put. Morning, people of this great country, says Paul. Oh, no, can't talk about that one. That's about a live
And it still is a great country. We should keep reminding ourselves that, although it's not as great as it used to be.
It will be great again. Do not give up faith. It will be great again. It is not at the moment. It feels like everything is broken. Nothing works. No. I went round a couple of my favourite supermarkets yesterday. On the way back, I walked past a couple. Fridges all broken. Food shelves all empty because the fridges aren't working. And I don't...
And in this heat, and the heat wave.
In this heat. And this is probably, perhaps that was the issue. They would say, well, we can't keep the fridges working when the heat is like this.
Well, that's the time you want the fridge to work. The whole point of a fridge.
Right. Jane is saying to Tom and Gloria, do ask the Labour Party politicians why they haven't vowed to cut benefit fraud and insist on face-to-face assessments with relevant clinicians. After all, the GP is not a clinical know-it-all. Thank you. There's so many of those issues, Jane, that you've identified there that will come out of this now, I think, botched